So today I'm going to do a brief presentation about the potential role of people's perceptions and beliefs about their mood swings in personal recovery and bipolar disorder. And you might ask, why would we be interested in looking at this? Well, as psychologists, when we are developing new therapies, we need to kind of understand more about what it is that might be causing difficulties for people in the first place, so that we know the types of things that the therapist will want to try and navigate through cognitive behavioural therapy or any other kind of approach. So there's been a lot of work in bipolar done about relapse prevention, like Fee said earlier, and these types of perceptions that people have about their mood swings and their experience of bipolar disorder have been linked to the recurrence of mood symptoms in bipolar and also to functioning. So we were interested in seeing whether or not these types of beliefs also impact on personal recovery experiences, with that being an important outcome to people with bipolar disorder, as the work of the Spectrum Centre has discovered. So what do we mean by beliefs about mood swings? Well, this is based on a model that's actually around physical health called the self-regulation model. And that suggests that people, of course, they have perceptions of their illness, whatever it is, whether that's diabetes or cancer or so on, and that those can be extremely negative, having very catastrophic views about, I have a long-term condition, this is causing me a lot of problems, it's always going to cause me a lot of problems, there's not much I can do. So when Fee initially did some work around the links between beliefs about mood swings and relapse in bipolar disorder, people said, well, we don't really want to be asked about beliefs about our illness, we want to be asked about beliefs about our mood swings, because that seems more appropriate for us. So that's why we say beliefs about mood swings. And this measure asks things such as, I believe that my mood swings are my fault, I have no control over my mood swings, and my mood swings severely affect my life. And actually the quote in the middle is from a qualitative study that talks about the energy can be really nice, but at the back of my head, there is always the worry that it might go too far and I'll go manic. So how people think about what's going on with their emotions and their moods and so on can have a real impact about how they then might seek to cope with that experience. And that's been a big interest of mine for a long time. So the development of the bipolar recovery questionnaire by Steve Jones and colleagues has obviously meant that we're able, on a bigger scale, we're able to look at the types of psychological and social factors that might impact on recovery. So using this measure, I have been involved with 2 research projects. So the first was one snapshot of time, where we asked people to complete this measure of beliefs about mood swings and also a measure of recovery. We also included some other measures that Sophie's mentioned around appraisals of internal states, which have been linked to the symptoms of bipolar disorder across a number of studies, because we wanted to see if they also might have an impact on people's experiences of personal recovery. And this second project, this was a longitudinal study. It was actually a trial, but we've kind of taken the data from the whole, from everyone who took part in that trial, irrespective of whether or not they had treatment, to look at whether or not over time, if people have changes to their beliefs about their mood swings, does that actually predict changes to personal recovery? So if people are able to feel that their mood swings are less catastrophic for them, for example, over time, does that link to increased experiences of personal recovery? So across both studies, there were quite consistent findings around the role of beliefs about mood swings. And actually, I want to highlight, when I say positive beliefs about mood swings, it doesn't mean the same as what Fee was talking about before, about feeling that mood swings bring sort of creativity and productivity and so on. It's more, I guess, the opposite of having a very negative view of mood swings and feeling like they are very catastrophic, uncontrollable and so on. So people that had less negative beliefs about their mood swings, would be a more appropriate way to say it, had increased personal recovery. And that was both in that snapshot of time in the first study, but also over time changes. So people who developed less negative beliefs over time were more likely to see increases in their personal recovery over time. So it looks like those two things might very well be linked. And interestingly, when looking at the specific types of beliefs that people had about their mood swings, it seemed to be that beliefs about the effects that mood swings had for people on their lives So the impact of mood swings and the consequences of mood swings was more important for personal recovery than beliefs about what was causing the mood swings in the first place. And even beliefs about how effective treatment could be didn't seem to have this link to personal recovery. It was all about, did people feel that their mood swings were not having as devastating an impact on their lives as they did before. And interestingly, the appraisals of internal states that I spoke about, they didn't relate to personal recovery, but they were related to symptoms. So there's a suggestion there that it might be the case that different psychological factors are important for the experience of personal recovery as compared to things that are linked to the experience of symptoms and to relapse. But that's obviously a very tentative suggestion at this time. But it's interesting as well because obviously symptoms and recovery are so linked, as Fee was talking about in the introduction. So this was very preliminary work. There's a lot more to be done here. We've seen over the course of this morning that there are lots of different things that are related to the experience of bipolar disorder, including medical reasons, social factors, psychological factors, and we were just looking at beliefs and how people felt about the impact of the mood swings on their life, and there's a lot more going on than that. And a key missing part of the puzzle is the fact that the model that I spoke about before, the self-regulation model, that would suggest, of course, that it's when people have beliefs about mood swings, it impacts on their coping strategies, and we didn't look at people's coping strategies, so that seems like a key missing piece of the puzzle there. And also, experiences influence people's beliefs about their mood swings. People have these beliefs because their mood swings have been devastating for them. They've had very real experiences where it's been catastrophic. They've not felt like they've been able to control spiralling symptoms. So it feels difficult to just say to people, oh, well, you've got very negative beliefs about your mood swings and therefore you're not going to experience personal recovery. So again, there's a lot more work to be done there to unpick that. And the other thing is, even though we did look at this over time, you can imagine that if somebody feels like they have a heightened experience of personal recovery and they're able to engage in meaningful activities for them and so on, that would then lead for perhaps the way that they perceive their mood swings to be less negative and less catastrophic. So there's a bit of a circularity there that we also need to unpick in further work. So the point there about addressing personally meaningful goals, we also did find that employment was linked to recovery. So things like that, again, it just goes to show there are lots of other things that we need to look at in order to kind of build a bigger picture about the factors that help and hinder personal recovery. And take a lifespan approach as well. So obviously we've had Sophie talking about personal recovery in the context of the very, very early stages of bipolar type experiences. And Lizzie at the back there, I'm going to point to her, is currently running a study looking at the experience of personal recovery in older adults with bipolar disorder and how recovery-focused therapy might be able to benefit people who are 65 and over. And it may be that there are different factors that help and hinder recovery over time in younger people as opposed to older people. And that's another thing that we need to look at in order to develop really effective and acceptable interventions. So by acceptable, I mean what Sophie was saying around things that people actually want to turn up and engage with and they find helpful. And I would be interested in hearing your thoughts about the kinds of factors that might be linked to personal recovery that we could explore in further research, because we don't want to be sitting here with our psychological theories and just picking variables and going ahead with that. I'm interested to hear more about what you feel is important for your personal recovery, and as Fee said, we'll be around at the breaks and so on for questions. And I think that's the end, and I didn't even put my contact details on there, but I'm very happy to pass on my email address to anyone who's interested in having that discussion. So thank you.